Hi there, in today's video I want to look at something that people ask me about all the time, and that's the kind of glue that I use for doing my collages when I'm working in collage, because as you know I do a lot of collage work in my own work, and I'm always encouraging people to have a go at it themselves because it's a really flexible, experimental, creative way of working. So often people say to me, that's really interesting, I like what you're doing, but what kind of glue are you using? So I thought what I'd do is to just go through a few different options, and if you could just have a look at the table that I've got here, I went out and I've got some different types of glues. The one that I use all the time is this one here, but there are other options, and I just wanted to have a look at them and see how they react and how they work with the kind of things that I like to do in my work, if they're appropriate, if they're inappropriate, if they actually do the job that you want them to do. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, right at the beginning I want to talk about something that people say to me quite a bit, and that's that they often use a gel medium, acrylic gel medium, for doing their collage work, for sticking and gluing things down. And I always say, why would you do that? Why would you use something that's designed as a medium to use as a glue? And the answer is it's sticky, it works, it's should be waterproof, so why not? And the thing that I always say about it is that it's really expensive, is that you're using something which is designed for artists. It's an acrylic paint medium which is designed to mix with the paint, so it's quite an expensive way of achieving a result which you can do maybe even better in a different way. So I went out and got some, because I've not actually tried it and I don't use acrylic mediums, so I thought I had to go and get some and I would give it a go. Now admittedly this is quite a cheap one, you can get different ones, but I just went to Hobbycraft, which is a local art store chain here in the UK, and I grabbed a few different things that I thought I'd try out on this video. So admittedly this is a fairly cheap one, but it still was £4.80 for 100 millilitres. So that's quite a small tub for, quite a small tube for quite a lot of money. So I'm just looking at how you can use the best thing for the job. This may be the best thing for the job. I might discover that, you know, all along I've been telling people not to use gel medium, don't use acrylic medium for sticking things down. But I might find out that it's the best thing. So I'm well prepared to be wrong and see what happens. And I'm going to test these things out and check the results so we can have a good look at them. So there's that. So that's the acrylic gel medium. So that's one thing I definitely want to try using for sticking down and seeing how it reacts. And obviously I can't look at the longevity of these things, because obviously I can't do this video over a number of years. So we'll just have to see how we go and get a feel for it, get an idea about how these different things work. Okay, so that's the gel medium. I'm definitely going to have a go with that. So the one that I use all the time for my work is this waterproof PVA. PVA stands for polyvinyl acetate, I believe. So that's just an acronym of the chemical makeup of the material. It's glue, so it's kind of like white glue. I know that in the USA, PVA is an acronym for something else, I think, so they don't call PVA glue PVA. So you're looking for white glue or something like that, any kind of craft glue. So this is something I get from, not from an art shop, I get this from a DIY shop here in the UK. So that's what you're looking for. It's a bit like wood glue. You can use it for bonding glue. This one's really strong. It's also waterproof, which is the reason I use it. It lasts forever. Once it's stuck, and I've never had any trouble with it at all. So the good thing about this is that I get a litre of this for £15, and it's really strong. You can dilute it, and it works really well, even diluted, for adhering paper and anything. In fact, one of the main uses for this in the building trade is for diluting it and using it for sealing brickwork. So it's pretty tough. So I use that all the time. I've never had a problem with it, and like I said, I think in terms of the bang for your buck kind of relationship, it's really good value, because, you know, £15 for a whole litre, as opposed to what this is a tenth of the volume for a third of the price. So you know, it's a different kind of thing. But again, I'm willing to be proven wrong, as we say. So the other glues I have here are from Hobbycraft again. So these are craft glues. Now this one here is £3 for half a litre, so it's pretty cheap, but it's washable. And I'm always looking out for that, because washable says to me that if you re-wet it, it's going to come off. So it's designed probably mostly for kids to use. So if they're at school, so if you go to like school glue or something like that, it's a bit like that. So it's washable. So if kids get it on their clothes, you stick it in the washing machine and it's going to come out, not going to ruin your clothes. Whereas something like this won't come off, obviously, because it's waterproof. This one here is just normal PVA, so it doesn't say washable on it. So I guess it's going to be somewhere in between these two things here. This one's designed to break down with water. This one isn't specifically designed to break down with water, but probably will a bit. And this one is designed to resist getting wet. So let's see where we go with that. And the last one I got, just as an extra really, was this decoupage medium. So obviously decoupage is designed for using collage for sticking paper and things like that down and making artwork with it. So that's what this is, all in one glue, sealer and finish. So that's like a kind of varnish. It's a bit like a varnish, a bit like a medium. It's a bit like a glue. Let's find out what happens with that. And how much did that cost? This one was £4.70, so it's the same as the acrylic medium, and it's 250 millilitres as compared to 100 millilitres. So it's more than twice as much for the same price. Never used that before, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with it. Like with all these things, I've only ever used this one. So, I mean, I've used ordinary PVA before, PVA that isn't waterproof. To be honest, I've never had a problem with it, but I get this one because I feel like it's got the most longevity. So let's see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick some bits of paper together, basically, let them dry and see how they react when I try to re-wet them, see what they're like, see what they feel like, give it a go. Before we look at that, I've got these boards here that I was playing around with in my membership group this month. We were looking at how to deal with the edges of your paintings when you're working on boards or canvas. Because if you're doing the work that I'm going to do in a minute, have a play with this collage and paper, it's very easy to reorganize it. You can tear bits off, you can add bits on. It's quite easy to play around with the format, and the edges are less fixed, they're less defined. But when you've got a board or a canvas, you've always got this edge. So in the membership group this month, the project was all about how to break the edge, how to start looking at ways of getting a sense that there's something going on outside of the frame while still retaining an interesting composition. So these little things here, I put them together in a kind of block of 4 and I was working over them, and that was quite an interesting way of actually taking away the idea of the edge, because you can actually work across them, get a bigger mark in the same space. So if you're interested in that, please do check out the link that's here on the screen. You can join the membership group for free for the first month, and it's actually currently on a discounted rate at £18 instead of £20, because it's the second birthday of my membership group. So I'm kind of celebrating it with a bit of an offer there. So if you're interested in that, please do check out the link here on the screen and in the description to the video. Right, let's have a look at this glue. Okay, let's get that over there. Now the paper I'm going to use, and all I'm going to do is just tear some bits of paper. This is a 200 gram paper, and this is one that I use quite a bit. It's just ordinary cartridge paper. Again, in the USA, I know they don't call it cartridge paper, but you're looking for something like mixed media paper or just ordinary drawing paper. This has got a smooth surface on it, and it's 220 GSM. So it's something I use quite a bit, this sort of thing. Not always this exact one, but around this weight is quite good, 220. Anything over 150 to 220 is about right for doing the kind of work that I do. You've seen, I'm sure, on the channel me doing painting outside and coming back and tearing them up, having a little play around with them, making my collages. And this is the kind of paper that I use all the time. So maybe I'll do a video soon about different kinds of paper and how it reacts and why you might want to use one rather than another. So if you're interested in seeing that kind of video, do let me know. So I think I'm just going to tear some strips into this and just stick it down with these different glues. Just find my ruler. Okay, so let's just start with the one that I know, which is my trusty PVA. Like I said, it is super thick, this. It's very thick glue, so you can dilute it. There's probably plenty on there. Yeah, I'll just use the bit that's on the lid. Right. I'm just going to tear that off and then stick it back together. Try not to make too much mess. There we go. Just put a good amount on there, spread it out nice and thin, stick it on. Obviously I'm going to have to come back once this is dry and have a look at how it's gone. Okay, so this is my Evo PVA. Okay, let's move that one out of the way. What's this like? It's kind of, it's a bit thinner, this. Its consistency is a bit runnier. It's not bad though. It's definitely a bit runnier. I might put a little bit more on. Get an even covering. Okay. Right, so this is the gel medium. Next up, what should we use? We'll use the washable PVA. What's it got on it? Oh, it's got a little cap. See what this is like. Feeling it might be a bit runnier, this. Does it work? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of running. Let's have a look. You won't be able to see that, but it's sort of slightly slimy, and I think this is probably to do with the fact that it's washable. So yeah, I'm not convinced that's going to be great, but it'll, you know, it'll stick it. It'll stick it down. Let's use this now. Okay, so this was the PVA that is just ordinary PVA, so it doesn't say washable on it. So let's see if we can tell the difference between the one that says washable and the one that doesn't. Now that other one was quite slimy. Let's have a go at this one. Yeah, it's got a similar texture to it, but not quite as. It feels stickier. Very scientific. Feels a bit stickier. Let's get a bit more on there so I can spread it out more. Definitely a bit clearer, this one, but I think they'll all dry clear. I guess we'll find out. Okay. Right, and the last one then is the decoupage medium, which again is not something I've ever used. Finally getting my act together. Decoupe. Okay. Smells more like acrylic medium. Yeah, so this is more, probably a bit more like a copolymer emulsion. I recognise the smell from when I used to make my own acrylic paint when I was at college. I think what happened, I think somebody came in with some paint and said, here's some pigment and here's some emulsion. Do you want to make some paint? And I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. I haven't done that for a long time, but that smells quite distinctive. So it may be a different kind of thing, this decoupage medium. Might be a different chemical makeup, but I'm not really going into that too deeply because I don't know enough about it. I just want to see how they react. It's in a better tub, but it'll probably dry out quicker, who knows. That's probably swings and roundabouts with that one. Right, that's nice and thin, that's spread out. Okay, I'm going to let these dry for a few hours now, make sure they're properly dried through, and I can see how they react, see if they've stuck really well. I'm sure they'll all stick. It's just a case of how permanent are they and will they lift if they get re-wet. Okay, it's a few hours later now and all these are as dry as I think I need them to be. I think with any kind of glue, if you leave it for sort of 24 hours, then it gets to its kind of maximum strength. But I think this is probably long enough now. It's been a few hours. I think they're long enough and plenty dry enough for us to get an idea of what kind of effect we've had. I'm not sure what we're going to learn from this. Look, I just wanted to try out these different things, see what the differences are, see if I can notice any differences. And you know, so it might be useful for you to see this. You know, I've done some research, and as far as I can tell, the PVA itself is fairly neutral in pH, so that it's not acidic. I've got work that I've done with PVA that goes back 20 years, 25 years, and I've got no problem with it whatsoever. I'm not having any problems with yellowing or cracking or anything like that. I've not noticed anything at all. It's just completely as it was when I put it on. So if you're concerned about those sorts of things, then obviously do some research yourself, and if you're comfortable with using a material, then go for it. If you feel less comfortable about it, then don't use it. But I think that's very much a personal thing. You know, look into it, see how you feel about it. But I'm very comfortable with using the PVA for my professional work, so that's entirely up to you if you're not. So let's just see where we get with this and see how we feel about it. I'm going to start with the waterproof PVA. That's this one that I use all the time. I'm not necessarily recommending it to you. I'm just saying this is what I use and I don't have any problems with it. It's, hopefully you can see that, it's got a slight gloss to it where I've spread the glue over the top here. It does have a slight glossiness to it, but it has dried pretty clear, completely clear. The only reason there's a difference between the paper where it isn't and the paper where it is the shininess, the glossiness. So yeah, looks pretty nice. And you know, I know this isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to peel off. It's that's just the paper coming apart where it's not been stuck down. But where the glue is here, where this join is, yeah, that's not going anywhere. And I know that it will last a long time. Now let's have a look at the gel medium. So that was this one, and the only issue I have with the gel medium is there's nothing to do with the stuff itself and it's whether it's fit for the purpose. It's obviously not going to come unstuck. It's really well stuck down. It's got a slightly more glossy surface than the PVA, but you know, it's not a problem. I don't see that as a problem in any way. The only issue I had with it is the cost. Is that this is a cheap one. This gel medium that I've got here is a pretty cheap one, and it's still a third of the price, but for a tenth of the material. So it's a lot more expensive, and I just think, why? You know, why use gel medium rather than the PVA? Because it's, you know, you just feel like you're throwing money away. But if you've got a specific reason you want to use it, maybe you're not comfortable with the idea of using something that isn't designed for art in your artwork, then that's absolutely fine. Of course, use it, just carry on. But you know, it's just something that I feel about it is, you know, what's the point? Why use something which is hugely more expensive when I don't need to? So that's really that. That seems absolutely fine. It's stuck down really nicely. If this is what you've got, then go for it. Now this doesn't say that it's waterproof, but it has stuck down really well. Seems absolutely fine. It's not peeling off. I can't get that to peel off, so it's nicely stuck. It's good stuff. Seems to work fine. The glossiness, let's see if we can compare it to the other ones. It's slightly less glossy than the gel medium, and also slightly less glossy than the PVA, the other PVA, the strong one I was using, but it may just be that I haven't put quite as much on, which is why it's less glossy, so I wouldn't read too much into that if I were you. Now the washable one, again, let's have a look. Let's see, this was this one, and it says that it's water-based, high-quality PVA adhesive, multi-purpose but washable. Now if I haven't got some glue on there, I don't think that's peeling off because it's not stuck. I think there just wasn't any glue on there. So again, I can't peel that off. It seems really well stuck. So they're all pretty good so far. I'm not having any trouble with any of them so far. That was the washable one. I'm going to test them for what happens when they get wet again in a minute. So let's keep going with this for now. No, this is the decoupage medium. This is significantly glossier, but it does say on it that it's glossy. It's designed as a finish, so I guess you could use it as a kind of acrylic varnish if you wanted to. And again, it's, you know, it's really well stuck, but it is quite a lot glossier. That's just the paper coming apart there. It's not the glue coming unstuck. That was just the top of the paper. So yeah, again, really well stuck. Not going to have any problems with that. Yeah, the main difference with this one, I would say that it's quite a bit glossier, but I think that's by design. That's not any kind of problem with it. Okay. The last thing I wanted to test with this was what happens when they get re-wetted, because, you know, if you're working over something, you might be putting some more paint on top, building up some layers. You might get some water or other paint on there. Let's just see what happens with these different ones as we get a bit more water on there. And also this relates to whether you can use a material or it's not going to be framed behind glass, because obviously if you put glass in front of a painting when it's finished, it's going to protect it from the elements, so it's not going to get any moisture on it. So, you know, if you've got something that is waterproof and won't degrade if it gets moisture on it, and obviously that's going to be better for board or canvas or something like that. I think if you're putting it behind glass, it's not going to be too much of a problem. So I'm just going to dip my finger in the water here and just see if anything happens to it, anything goes on here. So this is the waterproof one, and, you know, pretty much as I expected. I'm trying to move it around so you can see it, but there's no kind of issue with that at all. It's completely sealed. It just slides around on the surface. It's not getting tacky or anything like that. So I'd say that was pretty good. Have a look at this gel medium here for waterproofness. As I said, it is slightly glossier, but that's fine. I think it is meant to be. I can't feel anything there. I can't feel that it's dissolving or degrading the surface in any way. It's not feeling tacky in my fingers, so it seems absolutely fine. I wouldn't have any problem with using that in my collage. Let's have a look here. This was the non-washable PVA, so that was this one. It doesn't say on it that it's washable. Already I can feel a slight stickiness though. Let's see what's going on here if I get it wet. Yeah, so I can feel the surface of this glue softening. It's getting sticky in my fingers here. As you can see, it's stuck to my fingers. So that glue here, it's non-washable, but it's not waterproof, and it is got very sticky very quickly. So that is not a permanent glue. So if you wanted to use something for your collage, I would say that you were better off using the gel medium or the waterproof PVA so far. But this may not be a problem, because as I said, this is only going to be an issue if your surface is going to get re-wetted, or it's going to be an environment where it's going to be getting damp. Say if it's on a canvas or a board that you're doing it on, you're using it on, and it's not going to have glass in front of it. If it's going to be glazed, this isn't going to be an issue. But I'd be less comfortable with using this ordinary PVA, just because it's softening with the water. And also, as you build up layers on your paintings, you may find that that's a problem. But it may be an advantage. It might actually be an advantage, because if you're building up layers with your painting and you're using this, you can soften it and maybe work into those layers underneath a little bit more. So I think it's always worth doing these kinds of tests, because you can then use the materials for the properties that they have, you know, good or bad. If you want to have something that sticks and doesn't soften, then the gel medium or this waterproof PVA are definitely better. If you want to have a property of something that's getting soft when you re-wet it, you know, it might actually be quite nice, because it's nice and grippy. It'd be nicer to work over than this gel medium, which is quite hard and plasticky, and the same with the waterproof PVA. This softening would actually be grippier and quite nice to work over. So that's something to think about. Now the washable PVA, if this one's softened, then this one's definitely going to. Let's just see how we go with this one. I don't think I put as much on, but I can definitely feel it getting, yeah, it's getting quite soft now and sticky. I didn't think it was very sticky to begin with. Can you remember I said it was quite slimy, but you know, it's sticking to my thumb again. Yeah, a little bit slimy, that one. And I would worry about this one. I know, you know, I've been predisposed to be a bit negative about this one, but this is the one that says it's washable. I'd be careful with this one, because you know, you don't really know what's going to happen over time with the bond. If it's not meant to be a permanent glue, it's actually meant to be softened. You know, it's designed to soften when it gets wet, so you can wash it. You know, I think if you've got a choice, I think it'd be all right. To be honest, it's okay. This bond is not coming apart, you know, so I don't think it'd be a major problem, and I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you've got the choice between something that says it's washable and something that says it's not, you know, why would you use the one that's washable? And the last one then is this decoupage medium, and I've no idea what this is going to do. Again, it was quite glossy, this one. Getting a little bit of water on there. What's happening with this? Nothing. I feel that's not softening with the water. Let's do it a little bit longer. No, that seems fine. So yeah, again, that seems like a permanent solution, that one, the decoupage medium. So yeah, I think we've got our answer. Okay, that was quite interesting. I can't say that the results were entirely unexpected. Maybe the non-washable PVA, I was slightly surprised, I suppose, at how quickly the surface of that became tacky again. So yeah, I wouldn't use that now. I wouldn't use ordinary PVA. I have used it in the past, but I would definitely now use this waterproof one without any question if I had a choice. So these three, the waterproof PVA, the gel medium, decoupage medium, absolutely fine. And I guess it just comes down to the cost and what you're using it for. If you need volume, you know, this is the one. If this was, you know, if either of these are what you can get your hands on because you can't get something like this, then, you know, they're absolutely fine, no problem. I would probably steer clear of both of these, both the normal PVA and the washable PVA. They both soften quite quickly, and unless you specifically want to have something that does give a slightly softer, grippier surface as you start to work over it, that might be an advantage, but I don't know, I'd probably steer clear of both of those for doing collage and go with something that's a little bit more permanent. Okay, that was fun. I've not really done anything like that on the channel before, but it was quite interesting. I hope you found it so. Hope you found it enjoyable to watch and maybe useful. If you enjoy watching my videos, then please do subscribe to the channel, drop me a like, and don't forget about my workshops and membership group. You can see all the information for those at the link here on the screen or in the description to the video. Okay, I'll see you soon.